Emperor Julian had a food scarcity problem. The harvests in Syria were less than expected, and the price of bread in the markets of Antioch had risen in proportion to the scarcity. But then the monopoly of the state and human nature shows why governments past and present cannot control prices without disastrous results. Historian Edward Gibbon writes, "In this unequal contest, in which the produce of the land is claimed by one party as his exclusive property, is used by another as a lucrative object of trade, and is required by a third for the daily and necessary support of life, all the profits of the intermediate agents are accumulated on the head of the defenseless consumer. The hardships of their situation were exaggerated and increased by their own impatience and anxiety and the apprehension of a famine. When the luxurious citizens of Antioch complained of the high price of poultry and fish, Emperor Julian publicly declared that a frugal city ought to be satisfied with a regular supply of wine, oil, and bread. But he acknowledged that it was the duty of a sovereign to provide for the subsistence of his people. With this salutary view, the emperor ventured on a very dangerous and doubtful step of fixing, by legal authority, the value of corn. He enacted that, in a time of scarcity, it should be sold at a price which had seldom been known in the most plentiful years. The consequences might have been foreseen, and were soon felt. The imperial wheat that was sent was purchased by the rich merchants. The proprietors of land and of corn withheld from the city the accustomed supply, and the small quantities that appeared in the market were secretly sold at an advanced and illegal price. Julian still continued to applaud his own policy, treated the complaints of the people as a vain and ungrateful murmur. He was persuaded, perhaps with truth, that the senators of Antioch, who possessed lands or were concerned with trade, had themselves contributed to the calamities of their country, and he imputed the disrespectful boldness which they assumed to the sense, not of public duty, but of private interest. The whole body, consisting of 200 of the most noble and wealthy citizens, were sent, under a guard, from the palace to the prison, though they were later paroled. So let's recap here. There was a real issue. Production of food for an area was low. It was a complex issue with varying degrees of blame, but the government will find a way to make it worse. The first mistake was the emperor claiming that he alone could fix this issue. The government's response is to manipulate the market and set prices. The prices they set were so insanely low that it made no sense. As usual, the government was incorrect, as it is impossible for governments of any size to properly set prices for anything. So as farmers and landowners now could not get any value for their goods, human nature comes into play and opens up a black market, circumvents the regulations. There was even a phase in wartime Japan in World War II, which was, in this society there is nothing but the army, the navy, the big shots, and the black market. It is only the fools who stand in line. Whether it's ancient Rome, the 1770s, or today, people should know the government cannot set prices for food, goods, and services, as their intervention into a market will make it worse. The problem will always be worse for the poor and working class of the area as well. The rich and politically connected will always be okay in terms of the price change. Then the government denies there is a problem. Once there is, they blame and arrest other people to deflect from their own failures, as they have the power of the sword behind them. All the while, no one who was responsible actually learned their lesson, and it seems that most of the time we have not as well. Politicians stay the same. Governments stay the same if we let it.